we're going to go ahead and get to our first call, and that is Chris in New York, who wants to talk about evidence for God. So, Chris, why don't I let you explain what you are calling in about?
Yeah, any evidence I have is probably relatively scant. But I told a trainer it's going to be more than about that. I think that there is slight evidence for something beyond our comprehension or beyond our senses. And I don't know if you ever heard of the Global Consciousness Project out of Princeton.
Maybe vaguely, but not typical. No, okay. Not the Princeton part throws me off. No. But I've heard talk to spiritualists who talk about universal consciousness, so that part sounds familiar.
Well, this is more scientific. They have random number generators all around the world, and number generators spit out zeros and ones, 50% zeros, 50% ones. Mm-hmm. Well, in this case, and maybe you can look it up while Google it. One of you can Google it. It turns out just before some really crazy event like 9/11 happens, the number generators stop being random. They start spitting out improbable amounts of zeros or ones. And so
just real quick, what are they using for?
I don't even know if.
What are they using for a random number generator?
They use a bunch of them. They're in different countries. I'm not sure what kind they are, but they spit out ones and zeros. And they're
right. But so the type of random number generator is a big deal, right? Because computers don't do random numbers. Yeah. There's no algorithm that'll turn out a truly random number. So you've got to use something like neutrino decay or something along those lines for truly random numbers. So since it's Princeton, I would assume they would know something like that, but they may not.
Oh, they do. Yeah, they do. You can flip a coin, and it's a random number generator.
Well, coins aren't real good random number generators, right? Because they're not. Coins aren't perfectly balanced.
Well, you can make a perfectly balanced coin, but I mean, if you flip a penny, and you flip it enough times, you're going to get 50% of the time it's going to come up heads, 50% of the time it's going to come up tails. I'm talking about.
But my point is that if we don't know what kind of random number generator they're using, then we don't really know how good this data is going to be. If they're using a computer algorithm to generate random numbers, then they've got a problem.
I agree with that, but they have a bunch of them. I guess probably different kinds all over the world, and this is out of Princeton University, and they have shown that when something weird is going to happen, something out of the ordinary happens, they go haywire, and then they stop.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what that's proof. I don't know what that's proof of. Whether there's some connection between all people, or what. And I'm not saying that's predictive of God. I don't think it matters to prove if there is or isn't a God, simply because we have more pragmatic problems than to discuss something that, in fact, when people call up your show to try to prove God or disprove God, they don't even define what God is. I can't define what God is if there is a God. And basically my premise is based on if there is. Now, I can look at my life.
Right. So what does this have to do with let's bring this back to the random numbers. What does this have to do with the random numbers?
Sure. Well, that's just one.
You're wandering off the point.
Yeah, I'm trying to string it together in my mind a little bit. Is there any way maybe you could streamline that to?
Well, I guess maybe if one of you could look up the Global Consciousness Project while you're there, you would have, because I can't explain the whole thing to you, but there are other.
Yeah, I'd have to do that after
we didn't
the
ask you to explain the whole thing. Yeah, we didn't ask you to explain the whole thing. What we asked you to do was go back and tie in random numbers. You can't. Okay. So see, here's kind of the problem that we're going to have, right? What you have this fact, and I'll grant you that the random number generator, let's say it's really random, it's based off of neutrinos, which is, I believe, the most random thing we know of. but let's say it's the best random generator in the world that we can produce. Okay, so you have random numbers. It's still random numbers, zeros, ones, 0 to 10, doesn't matter. It's just random numbers. You have this fact, and it sounds like what you're trying to say is that because we can't explain it, why these go haywire just before an event, therefore something. And do you know what that fallacy is?
Well, what I'm saying is this: you decide what it is. That's what happens to them. I'm not saying.
Can you answer the question? Can you answer the question?
I don't know what it proves. That's my answer. I don't know.
Okay, but I didn't ask you what it proved. I asked you what the name of the fallacy is when you say we don't know, therefore it must be. Do you know what that fallacy
is? I didn't
is?
say that. I don't know what it. No, I don't know what it is, but it happens.
So why did you tie this into Global Consciousness Project and all the rest of it?
Yeah, I'm a little confused because
into what? Yeah, I know you are. I'll try to unconfuse you if I can.
Sure, but I mean, do you hold on? I mean, we're aware that the studies, right? They're not conclusive. If they were, we'd hear about this. This wouldn't be met with criticism.
Well, you could hear about it. You could hear about it.
Hold on, real quick.
Real quick.
Yeah, but what I don't like is that if what the hypothesis is that global, if there's a global consciousness, then we should be able to influence the output of random number generators, which is what it sounds like you're saying, right? Or what the experiment is. That just ignores other kind of entailments that could be statistical fluctuations, right? Equipment malfunctions. I'm not really understanding how this would be conclusive, even just on the face of it. Just seems kind of. But I mean, again, I'd have to do more beyond this, but it seems. I mean, just strange the entailment that's being said, right? It just kind of is like making a dichotomy that I don't know is true.
Well, there's a lot of them, so it's like if one of them goes haywire, there's a probability, but the probability of these things of all of them doing the same thing at the same time, it's pretty improbable that they would do that because there are mechanical or computer errors in it, but it does happen.
And again,
and that's what the global.
Okay, so what?
It could be all hooey, but that's what they're saying. Okay, there's another.
Right. So what? I mean, what can you conclude from that fact?
Yeah, well, actually, Jim's asking a good question because that's where I'm at. What are you concluding from this? That's I'm trying to understand the entailment.
Well, I don't know what to conclude from it, but one thing I can't make a conclusion because I'm not a scientist, and I don't know enough about it to make a conclusion. But this is what happens. What do you?
But you called in for. Oh, okay. So that last part might have cleared up. If you're just calling in to see what we think about it, well, one, I care about looking into things a little longer and not just making a conclusion. I'm just offering something that could be problems just on the face of it. I'd have to look at it. The second of Google search, I've already seen.
Yeah.
Why scientists actually are critical of this, and I just listed out the equipment malfunction and the fact that there's no entailment, that the anomalies couldn't be explained by statistical fluctuations. But there's more you have to look into on that, especially maybe inferential statistics or something that I'm not really sure that you just look at this data and say, great. Because the whole point of science is to repeat this, to test this. I don't even know what would falsify this unless it's just that you wouldn't see some type of right. But even then, the entailment that it must be this thing just seems like a dichotomy that I'm not really willing to entertain.
I don't even know how you'd get it. How do you get a testable hypothesis out of this, and what are your independent and dependent variables off of this data? I mean. How do you falsify it? How do you do anything with it? It's interesting, but if you can't conclude anything from it, then why do we care?
Well, we care because I would say for knowledge in general. I mean, a lot of people for centuries have tried to understand why we exist, why we're here, what our purpose is. And
right, but what does any of those questions have to do with these random numbers? Right, I don't know. See, again, I'm asking, how do we go about testing this?
Are you guys breaking my balls? Because
I'm literally trying to figure out what the purpose is.
That's actually how I feel about what you're saying. I feel like you're breaking my balls. That's like how I feel. So that's ironic. But look, I don't know if we're going to make, I mean, Jim, if you want to finish up this, but I want to move on to some other callers. So I don't want to spend all the time. No, it's nothing against this, John. It's just, I don't know what like utility this has in the discussion. If we don't even know what the entailment even is, the fact that we think we've exhausted potential explanations on the hypothesis seems really sloppy to me, but I want to hold off on that because there's more I want to look at. I don't want to just be rash.
Wait a minute. I've also wanted to talk about how religion has damaged the world, particularly
sure. We're probably going to agree on that, and so we have some theist callers in the queue, so I'd like to get to a theist caller then. It's just going to turn into potentially us just agreeing, and I don't really know that makes for an interesting show.
I'm an agnostic, but I bet. But the thing about it is this: atheists take this idea that, well, there's a bunch of silly atheists. I'll give you 5 minutes to prove there's God on your show, and I think that is, to prove something like that, you need extraordinary proof, and you're not going to prove it in a phone call. So I don't know if there's a God, and I don't really care one way or the other. And the point of it is,
okay.
No,
if you don't care, why are you calling an atheist?
Care if there is neither should. Atheists shouldn't. Let me finish my thought. Atheists shouldn't really care, but what they should be.
Yeah, it looks like he dropped, but I didn't do that. I was actually thinking about dropping just after atheists shouldn't care because there's immense reasons to care, right? It affects everybody's life. Not even just on the theism part, just if you zoom in on how you apply critical thinking to every bit of your life. If you allow for one thing that magic all of a sudden gets to enter in unjustified, then you can make the same unjustified move, the same chess move, which I would say is not even a chess move. It's just like throwing the chess pieces off the board and like giving up. But you can make that same move with everything. And I don't want to live in a world with people that all make the same dumb chess move, right? I want to live in a world with people where we have more cooperation, mutual understanding, empathy towards our experiences. This question matters. This is what sows divide in so many societies, especially the one that I live in. So, but Jim, I don't know if you want to add to that.
We go into the next caller. Because beliefs inform actions. Actions have consequences. If you have a belief that some book written, in the Bronze Age or later says hate the gays, and then you start a therapy process that basically tries to torture the gay out of somebody, you're evil. I don't care what the book says. But that's, your belief informed your action, and those actions have consequences. And so we want to try and live in a world where we have as many true beliefs as possible, so that our actions are as correct as possible, so that we minimize the negative consequences as much as possible. That's why we care.
Yeah, and I don't think people really realize how, for people I talk to, family members, friends that are like, fence sitters, how much these conversations do help. It applies a really easy way to have things, streamlined to you, where you can then go, oh, this person said this thing in a debate or discussion. Let me go look at that independently, where you might not have the tools to even like think in your head, like, okay, well, what should I look at? Like, it's like cleaning a messy room. You don't even know where to start, but you have these discussions and it kind of guides you towards the direction in the room to clean up, right? Some type of error in the way that you think. And that can over time just build up, right? It's an amalgamation that allows you to reason. For me, coming from, I wasn't like religious or, I believe in God, but I had like really weird spiritual and borderline conspiracy theory beliefs. I am so grateful that I had heard the conversations and talked to the people I did, because I couldn't have done it by myself. And I feel like a better person because of it. And I noticed that people who come to that conclusion usually impact the world for a better, from my perspective. But